It's Impact with the Florida Star, the largest, oldest, and most read African-American newspaper in Northeast Florida and South Georgia. And now, here's the host, the publisher of the award-winning Florida Star, Clara McLaughlin.
Hello, this is Opio. I am sitting in for Clara McLaughlin, the owner of the Florida Star newspaper and also Star TV 18.2 on your television dial. And we got a good show lined up for you today, but first let me say please continue to support us, and we're really appreciative because you have been picking up that Florida Star newspaper. My goodness, sales are up and some good information in there, and I think people are beginning to really understand that it's so important for you to be able to have a newspaper that cares about you and that's going to fight the power, that's going to put the information out there, that's not going to shy away from being black. That's who we are. And all those who try to do it another way end up losing the respect of the community. So the Florida Star, make sure you pick that up, 18.2. Make sure you watch that channel and continue to give us the feedback on it. Now, it is so important that we understand what's going on with the election. Of course, there's national, and we all understand that right now Donald Trump looks like he is the nominee. There hasn't been their convention yet, but he is. All the other candidates are out of the race, and Donald Trump stands tall on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, you have Hillary is in the lead, and you have Bernie Sanders is still trucking along and is really doing an incredible job of inspiring people and trying to make people feel that, you know, the regular old political way of doing things is not the only way, that we have to begin thinking in other ways, and there should not always have to be a choice between two evils, you know. And so many of us are so used to it, particularly black people. We're so used to being beat down and harmed in the political arena, and we begin making excuses for the very people that we support or we supported. You know, I'm so sick of that. And it seems like there's a political revolution that's going on with Bernie Sanders, and I'm so happy that you have that type of candidate that's out there. Because without that, you would have already seen Hillary do what she does, and which is run to the right. She's a conservative. And those of you who don't understand that, that's what it is. The criminal justice system is so important for us to understand what's going on in that system, and the local races are so important, and we have the state's attorney's race, and that is what we're going to talk about this evening. You have Angela Corey, that's the incumbent. You have there's a Miss Nelson who has just jumped in the race for a state's attorney. And then you have Wes White, who's in that race as well. But also in this race you have a person by the name of Lay, who's a write-in candidate. It's really interesting. His name is Kenny Lay. He's an attorney. I think he practiced family law, but he's also I think he's a Republican. Now, there's a trick that has been played on the people here in the counties that vote in that particular election for state's attorney in the 4th district. Really horrible trick that has been played. Now, back in, I think it was 1998, there was a law that was passed by the legislature that basically says that in a primary if there are no opposite party that is participating in that race, then Democrats and Republicans and non-affiliates can vote in that primary, which basically becomes the general election for that particular race. Well, that's what was happening in the race for state's attorney. But Kenny Lay, really who's a supporter of Angela Corey, he filed as a write-in. Now, in that same law, there was a loophole that was in there that basically said if there's a write-in candidate, that closes that primary, and which prevents the Democrats in this particular situation from voting in that race. So you have say 400 and something thousand Democrats, 300 and something thousand Republicans. Well, those 400 and something thousand Democrats are not going to be able to vote in that race as a result of that write-in candidate going into that race. Now, the interesting part of this is the Republican Party played I believe it's just a Jim Crow trick. You know, Jim Crow, those eras, that was the era where black people had tricks played on them in order to prevent them from voting, or so significantly decreasing their vote to where it minimized whatever power that they had. Well, that was the effect of this trick that was played, and the trick really was Angela Corey's campaign manager, a person higher up in her campaign, was the one that put in this guy Kenny Lay as a write-in. And again, once a write-in is put into this primary, then that stops the Democrats from voting in that primary, right? Which effectively does this. It stops a large percentage of black people from voting, over 90%. It is, in my guesstimate, because of this type of trick that was played, it goes against the Voting Rights Act. I believe that there should be a letter written to the Justice Department talking about the effect that this particular trick has played, and particularly where it impacts and negatively impacts black people. Now, there's things that you can do, and of course, even during the Jim Crow era, there are really interesting things that you can do to try to overcome it. One of the things that can be done, and people have done this before, is you change your party affiliation before that election, or before that cutoff date where for changing your party affiliation. And I'm trying to break this all down, Sesame Street style, so everybody can understand it, because I know it seems like it's a whole lot of moving parts, but it's really as simple as a trick was played where a large percentage of African Americans are not able to vote for or against Angela Corey in this election that's coming in August. Okay, and again, the Voting Rights Act really outlawed and particularly looked at anything that negatively impact the voting of African Americans, and that's what this did. I also believe that there should be a lawsuit brought against Angela Corey's campaign, since her campaign manager was the one that did this. And he said, well, it was done as a committee person where he helped the Kenny Lay file as a write-in. He said, well, he did it in his role as a GOP, state GOP committee member. Well, the state GOP should be sued and investigated as well, right? Now, we're not fools. Even if you did it as far as as a GOP committee member, were you still, or did you know that you're going to be a high official in Angela Corey's campaign? Okay, those are the questions that have to be asked. And if you did, this was a Jim Crow trick. This is a type of tactic that is in violation of the civil rights of a large segment of the population, particularly in Jacksonville, where you have a large amount of African Americans that vote as Democrats, right? And so there is a big issue there. And I believe that there should be a letter written to the Justice Department Voter Division. I'll probably be the one that do that. That does that. And I think that should be a lawsuit filed against the GOP as well as the Angela Corey campaign. And so that way you're able to get all the information out. And if there's wrongdoing, then somebody should be held accountable. Now, who signed what? Are they the real signatures that were signed to put Kenny Lay in there? What was, you might not be able to tell what's in the minds of the people, but we do know that they know that this large number of African Americans would not have been able to vote. Now, why is this important? Because in the criminal justice system, you have a large number of black people for various reasons, and one is based on race, are put into that system. And so you think African Americans should not have a hand in voting who should be the state's attorney if they are so prevalent in what happens to them with the criminal justice system? Criminal justice system around the country has done some horrible things. They use the criminal justice system to actually tax black people with various types of taxing. And we've seen that in Ferguson. We've seen that in other parts of the country where these towns use the criminal justice system. They use the police officers, go into poor communities. You got a ticket there. You got a warrant there. You have people having to put their house up for bond there. And, it's just various things. And they use this to get a large amount of money out of black neighborhoods. And these certain type of effects happen when you don't show up to court for something minor. Then ultimately you may have a warrant put out for you. If you don't pay a certain fine, that fine increases. And anybody that's black understand and know somebody that's in the criminal justice system. That's really how pervasive it is. And so when you talk about a state's attorney's race that have found a Jim Crow type of trick in order to prevent black people from voting in that unless they do these other things, then we have an issue. And if that's legal and that's allowed to continue, then that means we have a system that doesn't mind tricks being played that will prevent black people from voting in certain type of elections unless they do these other things, such as change their party affiliation. There are some black people, because they hate the type of people that are in the Republican Party, because they are the Jim Crow people of the Democrats of yesterday, they just will never ever change their party affiliation. There are people that are just like that. And then there are people that are very that know what's going on. They are temporarily changing and change it back. But you're talking about some people who don't even know what's going on at all. And this is why we have to put this information out there and let you know what is going on. All right, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk further about what's going on in Angela Jim Crow Trick Corey and in this race that we got going on here. Just a horrible situation, but you have to be the one to stand up and stop these type of things. This is Opio, and this is Impact.
Do you know what media received the first Eagle Award by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for being the most factual? The Florida Star. Do you know which media solely addresses issues of concern for African Americans? The Florida Star. Do you know which media carries local, state, national, and international news regarding African Americans? The Florida Star. Do you know the only that carries a special section for our youth at home and the schedule for 3 black television networks. Now you know the Florida Star. Northeast Florida's largest, oldest, and most read African-American newspaper, serving since 1951 in more than 200 locations. The Florida Star. News you can use. News you can trust. The people's choice. Striving to make a difference. Subscribe today. Call 766-8834. That's 766-8834. Pick up the Florida Star at over 200 locations, or to have it delivered, call 766-8834. The Florida Star, speaking truth to power.
All right, and we are back right here on Impact of the Florida Star. Make sure you pick it up. Continue to pick it up. Also, 18.2 Star TV. We're here talking about the state's attorney's race and a trick that was played and that is being played on you. And those of you who don't mind switching your parties, this might be a massive movement that you can do in order to fight what is happening to you right now. I'm going to tell you what's so interesting about all of this. The Washington Post, way over in Washington, D.C., wrote an article about this very thing. And so they're considering Angela Corey one of the infamous prosecutors all around this country. And there's been a movement where a number of prosecutors that we have seen that people don't like because of some of the things that have happened, they've been afraid to prosecute police officers. They've been really unsuccessful at doing the things that need to be done in order to address the issue of accountability when it comes to government doing wrong and some of the bigger things that are happening to black communities around the country, particularly where police officers are harming people, as well as they're using the criminal justice system to harm indigent clients, indigent people. What I mentioned earlier with all of the pseudo taxes, with the giving them putting certain cases on them, certain tickets, increasing tickets to astronomical numbers. I mean, you start out with a ticket with $25. Next thing you know, you don't pay it over a while. You can be in court now. You're in the $300 range, and then I'm talking about just horrible situations. They just using the criminal justice system just to harm the black community. And of course, we know now that the drug war was used to harm black people. It was used to, as the Nixon administration said, to upend and to a war against the black community. That's on record now. And so there's no wondering if that's done and if there's some kind of conspiracy theory. And no, this is what happened. And those prosecutors and police officers and so on who do not change their direction and how to deal with these things, they are actually themselves in a war position against the black community. That's just the bottom line to that. And what was interesting to me in the Washington Post article, they really looked at Ron Littlepage. They quoted him throughout it, and again they called Angela Corey one of the infamous prosecutors in this country, and they mentioned the vote that went against the Brooklyn prosecutor of Mississippi, then in Chicago and in Cleveland, and also in the Caddo Parish in Louisiana. Those people are gone now. Those prosecutors are gone now as a result of just the horrible things that they were doing. And they're saying Angela Corey is one of those ones that should be gone as well. And what was interesting, at the end of the article, they talked about Shirk, because they played the same trick in that race as well, where this guy ended up filing, and he's basically said that he can't see any other kind of way that anybody can do better than Shirk, and so he filed as a write-in and closed off that election. And in the Washington Post story. They said Short was elected to office in 2008 on an endorsement from the Fraternal Order of Police and campaign promises to not oppose funding cuts to his own office. Listen to me, not to oppose funding cuts to his office. And so this means that when you hear those people call them public pretenders, some public defenders get mad about that. But if you have a person like Matt Shirk, who in all the embarrassment and the trouble he's gotten into, not able to control his sexual and lower desires, he's here with a Fraternal Order of Police endorsement, as well as a campaign promise not to oppose funding cuts to his own office and to squeeze indigent defendants for money, even if they're acquitted. Now, let me read that again so you can understand this. Campaign promise by Shirk: oppose funding cuts to his own office. That means those people that are in trouble, that really rely on public defenders because they can't get these attorneys, private attorneys, they have to depend on the public defender's office, right? And the head of that office saying he will not oppose funding cuts to his own office. My goodness. And to squeeze indigent defendants for money, even if they are acquitted. Now, how dastardly is that? And so you don't wonder why you have a criminal justice system that is broken in this area here. You don't wonder why when the public defender is an embarrassment and is a horrible person, and then you have the state's attorney is a horrible person and a pariah, somebody who is an embarrassment to the legal system. And that's right here in Jacksonville, in Clay County and in Nassau County. So you don't wonder why they wanted to build this big old courthouse and put more money into the criminal justice system, a failed criminal justice system, instead of making that some big hub for business and to do things like create jobs, to create a better living environment in this entire area. They decided to put money into the criminal justice system because this is what they want. They know there are a lot of evil white people out there who are afraid, and they can sell them any bill of goods, and they can say, hey, you know those black people are going to harm you. We got to put them all in jail. We got to put them all in jail. And then they got some black people, there's some Negroes who are ignorant and scary, and they think that they're living high off the hog and everything is going wonderful, and they allow Pharaoh and they allow people who hate them to make decisions for them while they're nodding their head yes like bobblehead dolls, while their children go into the system. This is a sad situation, but there are people in this area that's willing to stand up and willing to fight against that. All right, let's go to one more break, and when we come back, we end it off and give you some more good information. This is Opio, and this is Impact.
Now you know the Florida Star, Northeast Florida's largest and oldest, most read African-American newspaper, serving since 1951 in more than 200 locations. The Florida Star, news you can use, news you can trust, the people's choice, striving to make a difference. The Florida Star is serving over 230,000 African-Americans living in Northeast Florida that generate $5.2 billion in buying power. Read the Florida Star weekly newspaper and find out where your money's being spent and on what. Read the Florida Star and learn what your city and state representatives are doing on your behalf. Read the Florida Star and learn how to support your neighborhood businesses. Read the Florida Star and learn how to receive city health and community services. The Florida Star received the first Eagle Award by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for being most factual. The Florida Star solely addresses issues of concerns for African Americans. The Florida Star carries local, state, national, and international news regarding African Americans. Subscribe today at 904-766-8834. The Florida Star, speaking truth to power.
All right, this is Opio, and we're back here on Impact. Man, we're talking about the race for state's attorney and just the fallout that's happening as a result. There are are writing about this. All you got to do is look online, and people are talking about it, people are writing about it, and people are not happy when you have a state's attorney who's supposed to be accountable to the people of this area and does not mind at all that a trick was played that has prevented and that will prevent a large swath of people from voting in that race. Now that tells you everything about Angela Corey's character right there. Because if she wasn't playing those Jim Crow tactics and she wasn't for it, she would have fired the guy who did that and say, no, we will not do that. I am a state's attorney for all of the people in this area, and I want the people to vote me up or down. And I don't want no tricks being played. Just like I don't play no tricks in the courtroom, and I'm fair and I do what I'm supposed to do as a hard driving prosecutor to make sure that we have safe communities. There's no tricks to be played on this. Now, if there are tricks that are being played, that means that I'm playing tricks as well. Well, guess what? She has not stepped out and said, I'm going to fire this guy for helping somebody run against me. I'm going to fire this guy for helping this write-in candidate. I'm going to fire this guy from playing this trick. But no, he's at the top of her campaign, and they played a trick on you. And this is no different than the Jim Crow tricks that was played that prevented black people from voting. It's no different. And so you have a real serious issue on your hands right now. It's very, very serious. Now, if you're thinking somehow that it's not serious, just kind of look around, do some feeling around, and see what everybody is saying about this. And so now you have a prosecutor that not only has already been a pariah, now she's getting just less respect all the way around as a result of this trick that is being played that closed off this election that will prevent a large number of people from voting. It's just a sad situation that this is what represents us right here. Not only that, this is the same person. You would think that after you could not get Zimmerman put in prison for killing that child, Trayvon Martin, you would think that she would say, no, let's make something happen so I don't have to deal with that stain. Let's do something bigger and better. And this election is going to prove that the people here support me and all the great things that I'm doing. But that's not the case. She becomes a very, very little person. I'm not talking about little in size and physicality. That's not the case. We're talking about a very little person mentally, very little person in morals and ethics, if you will allow something like this to go on, knowing that these type of Jim Crow tactics have been played on black people. And the reason I keep talking about black people, because you're talking about black people, or over 90% are are Democrats. Now they have to try to figure out ways to change the party temporarily in order to be a part of that race. All right, I got to get out of here. This is Opio. I will see you next time. And this is Impact. Make sure you pick up the Florida Star.